I'd rather be called rude than pretend to miss what destroyed me. With that single sentence, Prince Harry transformed a morning TV chat into one of the most explosive interviews in British daytime history. What was supposed to be a polite conversation on the Lorraine show quickly turned into a clash that stunned the live audience and nearly forced producers to cut the broadcast short. The studio setup was as familiar as ever. Soft lighting, a cozy set, and Lorraine Kelly's trademark warmth meant to put guests at ease. Yet from the moment Harry walked in, sharply dressed but visibly tense, it was clear this interview would be anything but routine. He acknowledged the audience with the briefest of nods before settling into his chair. Lorraine opened with her usual courtesy. "Your Royal Highness, welcome. It's a real pleasure to have you here. How are you feeling?" Harry's response was curt. "I'm fine, Lorraine. Let's just get on with it." The clipped tone drew a murmur from the crowd. For Kelly, an experienced interviewer used to handling tricky guests, it was an unmistakable warning sign. When she asked what had brought him back to the UK, a question many viewers had been asking, Harry bristled. "Is it really such a shock? I came back for the Well Child Awards, a charity event that actually matters. Not that it's anyone's business why I'm here." His words landed with a sharpness that briefly silenced the studio. Lorraine pressed on, calmly but firmly. "You must understand why people wonder. After all, you've spoken so openly about wanting distance from the UK and the royal institution. Doesn't this look contradictory?" Harry leaned back, arms crossed. "People see what they want to see. That's always been the problem. Whatever I do, it's twisted. I can't even set foot in London without it being called betrayal. Maybe the real issue isn't me being here. It's the obsession with my life." The audience could feel the temperature rising. Lorraine, still composed but now matching his firmness, shifted to the other question on everyone's mind. Life in America. Harry didn't hesitate. "It's better, far better. I have freedom, I have control. I don't wake up every morning being shredded by the press. It's a better life by every measure." It was a bold declaration, one that drew sharp contrast between his past and present. Lorraine challenged him. "So you're saying nothing here mattered? That your life in Britain was worthless?" Harry shot back, his voice rising. "Did you hear me? It's better there. Better than being suffocated here. Call it rude. Call it disrespectful. It's my truth. I won't sit here pretending I miss what destroyed me." The audience gasped audibly. What had begun as a cordial interview had now become a battle of wills. 10 minutes in, the control room was debating whether to pull the plug. Lorraine's trademark warmth had cooled, replaced with the steeliness of a broadcaster determined not to lose control of her show. "Respect is earned, Lorraine, and Britain hasn't earned mine." With that line, the temperature in the studio seemed to plummet. The polite atmosphere of a daytime talk show had all but disappeared. In its place was something rawer, a duel of words, pride, and wounded history played out live before millions of viewers. Lorraine Kelly, never one to shy away from a difficult guest, tried to ground the conversation. "Harry, you've always fascinated the public because of your candor. But do you understand how these words sound to the people who once supported and admired you?" Harry waved a hand, as though brushing the thought away. "People will always think what they want. Sympathy doesn't pay bills or keep my family safe. I've done what I had to do for Meghan, for my children, for myself. If some viewers feel let down by that, that's their problem, not mine." The air grew heavier. His defiance was clear, but so was the growing distance between his words and the audience's reaction. Lorraine leaned forward, locking eyes with him. Her voice was calm but steely. "Then let's be plain. You're here in Britain, a place you say brings you pain. You chose to sit in this chair, in front of this audience. Whether you like it or not, people are forming judgments, not just about your choices, but about you. Do you care about that perception at all?" Harry's reply was flat, almost weary. "Not anymore. I've wasted too much of my life caring about strangers' opinions. They never cared about me, not really. So why should I care now?" The audience shifted in their seats. Some admired his honesty, others recoiled at the bitterness in his tone. Lorraine, still steady, answered carefully. "Viewers deserve honesty, yes, but they also deserve respect. Harry crossed his legs, his voice sharp. Respect is earned. And after everything I've endured here, Britain hasn't earned mine. For a moment, the studio fell utterly silent. The clash had gone beyond interviewer and guest. It was now symbolic, a collision between a man rejecting his country's expectations and a broadcaster speaking for those who felt left behind. Lorraine smoothed the papers on her lap, a quiet act of self-control, and then raised the stakes. Since you've chosen to be so forthright, let's address something else. Rumors. People are whispering about your marriage. Meghan is in California, you're here in London. Some suggest there's distance between you. What do you say to that? Harry's demeanor shifted instantly. His eyes narrowed, his tone cold. Rumors, Lorraine. That's all they are. I can't believe you'd even raise that. You should know better than to peddle tabloid nonsense. Lorraine didn't back down. With respect, Harry, it's being discussed everywhere. Our viewers would rather hear your answer directly than rely on speculation. Are the rumors true? His voice rose, firm with disdain. Absolutely not. Meghan and I are fine, stronger than ever. Anyone who believes otherwise is either ignorant or desperate for drama. It's insulting that I come here to talk about serious issues, and instead, I'm asked about fairy tales. The audience exchanged uneasy looks. Lorraine studied him, her expression calm but probing. Harry, she said softly, the fact that you're so defensive suggests the question struck a nerve. The tension was now unmistakable. What began as a morning interview had escalated into something resembling courtroom cross-examination, each answer sharper than the last, each question pushing deeper. The battle lines had been drawn, and neither side seemed ready to retreat. Don't you dare reduce everything I've been through to jealousy. With those words, Prince Harry's composure finally cracked. His glare, cold and unflinching, seemed to pierce through the cameras. What had started as a morning show interview had now descended into a confrontation that felt less like television and more like a public reckoning. It began when Lorraine challenged him directly. Harry, you chose to write Spare, a book that revealed the most intimate corners of your life. Your grief, your conflicts, your family grievances. Yet, after the initial surge, sales faltered. Do you think perhaps the public has lost interest in your story? Harry's laugh was sharp and hollow. Lost interest? No. The truth is, people weren't ready for it. My life isn't simple. It's layered, complicated. I was trying to educate the world about trauma, legacy, systems of oppression. Not everyone is intelligent enough to grasp that. The audience gasped. Lorraine's eyes narrowed. So you're saying your readers didn't understand because they weren't intelligent enough? Harry smirked. If the shoe fits. A wave of murmurs rippled through the studio. Even for viewers used to Harry's frankness, this felt different. An arrogance that cut directly against those who had once sympathized with him. Lorraine pressed harder, her patience thinning. Harry, these are people who supported you, who bought your book, who cared enough to listen, and your response is to insult their intelligence? He shrugged, dismissive. I'm not here to pander. I'm here to tell my truth. If some can't handle it, that's their problem. Lorraine seized the opening. Let's talk about the monarchy. You say you've broken free, rejected the system, but much of your platform, your relevance, even your career still rests on that very connection. Do you see the contradiction? Harry scoffed. Contradiction? No. The monarchy is irrelevant to me. I don't wake up thinking about Buckingham Palace. I don't dream about William or Charles. I live my life. I've moved on. Lorraine cut in crisply. And yet here you are in Britain, still talking about it, still profiting from it, still tied to it, whether you admit it or not. His jaw tightened, voice rising. You think I need them? I don't. I'm not their puppet. I've carved my own path. For a moment, silence hung in the studio. Lorraine leaned in, striking where it hurt most. Harry, you're not a prince anymore. That was your choice. But sitting here today, defensive, arrogant, dismissive, it looks less like freedom and more like bitterness. Many believe it isn't independence driving you, but envy. Envy of William. Envy of Kate. Isn't that what this really is? The audience erupted in whispers, stunned at the bluntness of the question. For the first time, Harry faltered. His face stiffened, jaw clenched as if he were swallowing words too sharp to release. When he finally spoke, his voice dripped with venom. "That's a cheap shot, Lorraine. Suggesting I'm jealous, dragging my brother and sister-in-law into this, you have no idea what I've endured. Don't you dare sit there and psychoanalyze me like you know my life." But Lorraine didn't flinch. "I'm not psychoanalyzing you, Harry. I'm saying out loud what many already believe, that your attacks on the family you left behind are fueled not by truth, but by resentment." His face turned crimson. Leaning forward, finger pointed, he snapped, "Don't you dare. Don't you dare reduce everything I've been through to jealousy. Don't you dare speak my brother's name as if you understand what happened between us. You have no idea, Lorraine." The studio was silent, the tension almost unbearable. What was supposed to be a televised interview had become something closer to a trial. Harry on the stand, Lorraine the unrelenting prosecutor, and the audience caught between shock and fascination. Where was that family when Megan was at her lowest, when she was suicidal? The line cut through the studio like a blade. Gasps hung in the silence. The interview, which had already teetered on the edge of collapse, now felt like a full-scale implosion, one that neither Lorraine Kelly nor Prince Harry seemed willing to walk back from. The unraveling began moments earlier. Lorraine, her voice low but cold, looked him directly in the eye. "If contempt and hostility are the only notes you can strike, then perhaps this should end. Viewers expect conversation, not outbursts. This isn't therapy, and it certainly isn't a punching bag for you to attack anyone who questions you." Harry's fury was immediate. "Maybe it should end, because I won't sit here and be spoken to that way. Not by you, not by anyone." Unmoved, Lorraine straightened her notes, turned toward the cameras, and said with deliberate finality, "Then we'll leave it there. Thank you, Prince Harry, for your time." The audience looked on as Harry yanked off his microphone, his movement stiff with anger before striding off stage. Lorraine tried to keep her composure, though her smile was visibly strained. "Well," she sighed, "I think that says enough. We'll return after the break." But the break changed nothing. If anything, the temperature rose. By the time the cameras flicked back on, Harry was back in his seat after a tense huddle with his aides. His jaw was set, his face flushed with anger. Lorraine, outwardly calm, now carried a harder edge. "Welcome back," she began smoothly. "Things became heated earlier, but if you're willing, I'd like us to continue." Harry folded his arms across his chest. "Fine, but don't ambush me. If you want honesty, you'll get it." "Then let's talk about perception," Lorraine countered. "Many believe your career has been built on dismantling the very family that gave you a platform. Without the royal connection, would the world really care about your views? Would people buy your books or tune into your shows?" Harry let out a laugh sharp enough to sting. "There it is again, the lazy narrative. As if my worth begins and ends with a title. I served in combat zones. I've worked to change how we see mental health. But none of that matters because you all reduce me to the spare." Lorraine's gaze was steady. "And yet, you chose that word yourself. You titled your memoir Spare? Wasn't that embracing the very label you say traps you?" Harry's response snapped out like a whip. "I used it before others could weaponize it. Owning it doesn't mean you understand it. Clearly you don't." The audience murmured, sensing the clash deepen. Lorraine pressed harder. "Here's the contradiction, Harry. You say the monarchy no longer matters, that the system is toxic. Yet you keep speaking about it, profiting from it, defining yourself through it. If it's irrelevant, why not let go?" Harry leaned forward, his voice fierce. "Because the damage doesn't disappear just because I move across the ocean. Do you think I can grow some plants in California and pretend none of it happened? The lies, the manipulation, the relentless campaigns? Wounds don't vanish on command." Lorraine's tone sharpened. "But every time you retell these stories, every interview, every page, you reopen those wounds. Not just yours, but your family's. Doesn't that matter?" Harry's eyes locked on hers, blazing. His words came like a final thunderclap. "Don't lecture me about family. Where were they when Meghan was drowning, when she admitted she was suicidal? Don't talk to me about family if you don't know what they failed to do. The studio was silent. What remained was not an interview but the raw aftermath of a man and a broadcaster colliding on live television, each line sharper than the last, each moment more uncontainable than the one before. They left us on our own. When I begged for protection, when I pleaded for support, nothing. So don't ask me now to respect their feelings when they never cared about ours. Harry's words landed with the force of a hammer. The studio air thickened. Lorraine Kelly didn't blink. Harry, she said steadily, no one here is dismissing your pain. But listen to how you sound. Dismissing everyone, bristling at every question. It doesn't come across as strength. It comes across as bitterness. His eyes flared. Bitter? No, I'm honest. I've seen what that institution does. It chews people up and spits them out. If honesty makes me sound bitter, then fine. I'll take it. Lorraine clasped her hands in front of her, refusing to yield. But many would say it isn't truth you're offering. It's your version, selective, packaged, profitable. Every time you speak, it's tied to a book deal, a contract, a stage. Isn't that performance rather than truth? The sharp crack of Harry's palm slamming against the armrest made several in the audience jump. Enough of this sanctimony, Lorraine. You sit in your chair pretending to be above it all, but you thrive on headlines just like the tabloids. Don't pretend otherwise. The studio fell utterly silent. Lorraine's reply sliced through the tension. The difference, Harry, is that I ask questions. I don't brand myself as a victim at every turn. You demand deference, and when you don't get it, you lash out. That's not accountability, that's hostility. Harry's lips twisted into a sneer. You think you've got me cornered? You're nothing but another cog in the machine I've fought my whole life. You just hide it behind a smile and an accent. Gasps rippled from the audience. Lorraine stayed composed. And you, Harry, are so consumed by rage you can't see the destruction in your wake. You're not tearing down the monarchy. You're tearing down yourself. For the first time, Harry faltered. His fists clenched, his breathing grew heavy, and he didn't immediately strike back. His silence was more revealing than his words. Lorraine leaned in, her voice quieter now but cutting even deeper. You want to be free, to be strong, to be independent. But what I see in front of me is a man still chained. Not by his family, not by the monarchy, but by his own anger. The audience sat frozen. Harry's mouth opened as if to answer, but nothing came out. His face flushed, his eyes darted toward the cameras. The confident image cracked, replaced by something rawer, cornered, furious, vulnerable. Sensing her moment, Lorraine softened her words into a final sting. Harry, you don't need a crown to be a prince. But right now you're not carrying yourself like one. That broke him. Harry sprang to his feet, towering over her, his voice trembling with rage. This is pathetic. You're pathetic. And I don't have to take this. He tore the microphone from his chest, the equipment clattering onto the floor. The audience gasped as he stormed off stage, muttering under his breath. Off camera, producers scrambled to contain the chaos. Lorraine stayed seated, her face calm but heavy with something between pity and resolve. She turned to the camera, her professional mask slipping at last. Well, she said quietly, I think our viewers can draw their own conclusions. The feed cut to black, but the damage was already irreparable. Clips of the meltdown flooded social media within minutes, dissected and debated across the globe. A morning interview had ended, not with polite farewells, but with one of the most dramatic walkouts in television history. The studio was frozen in stunned silence. Viewers whispered to one another, their voices carrying disbelief. Lorraine Kelly, however, sat upright, her fingers interlaced on the desk, her composure untouched. From the side of the stage, a nervous producer leaned in. Should we cut? He mouthed urgently. Lorraine, without breaking her gaze, lifted one hand in a small gesture. Not yet. She turned back to the cameras, her voice steady, her Scottish accent calm but firm. Ladies and gentlemen, I want to take a moment to address what just unfolded. live television can be unpredictable. Today, emotions ran high, but it remains my duty to ask difficult questions, because truth is often uncomfortable, and answers don't always come wrapped in politeness. A tentative round of applause rose from the audience, not for spectacle, but for her steadiness in the storm. Somewhere backstage, a door slammed, the echo carrying faintly into the studio. Prince Harry was gone. Lorraine exhaled quietly, then looked straight into the lens. Perhaps what we saw here wasn't only about one man or one family. Perhaps it was about accountability and what happens when it's resisted. Because titles, fame, privilege, none of them shield anyone from scrutiny, not anymore. The broadcast closing music began to play, though this time there were no cheerful smiles or light jokes to soften the ending. Instead, what lingered was the sense that something historic had just happened. A prince walking out on live television, a presenter refusing to yield, and a country that would dissect the clash for years to come. And so, Lorraine left her audience with a question rather than an answer. Was this the moment a broadcaster went too far? Or the moment a royal finally revealed who he truly is?